Good day. My name is Gabriel Quenville and I am the reconditioning specialist for the Canadian Armed Forces out here at Base 4 in Cold Lake. And I'm a clinical exercise physiologist certified through the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology. Today, we'll be talking about how to improve your fitness related to the rush component of the force test in this 4-part series on improving your fitness for the force test. First, let's break down the rushes into 3 components. We'll want to train how to approach the line, how to leave the lines, and how to sprint faster. Now let's talk physiology. From a physiological perspective, when you're leaving any of the lines, you need significant power in your chest to press yourself up off the ground and get going. You also need significant power in your legs so that you can start sprinting and accelerate. From sprinting, it's all about legs. You need leg power. And when we're talking about approaching the line, we're talking about field dexterity, body awareness, quick and rapid deceleration, and quick reaction time. In this video, I'm going to go through how we can train all of those facets using rush as the primary modality. I'm also going to be discussing how you can train in more unconventional ways, but remember, using the rushes as your primary modality to train these specific physiological components is going to provide better results because you're not only going to be improving from a physiological perspective, but you'll be able to take that time to improve on your technique at the same time. And that's just going to transfer to better results. From a technique perspective, I've already done a 4-part series on how to improve on the rushes component of the force test. And fortunately, that progression not only progresses through from a technical perspective, but it's also a great approach from a physiological perspective, an adaptation to strength into power. If you haven't seen those videos, they're linked in the description below, and I recommend you watch them so you can start improving on your technique. In those videos, I focused only on the technique, so right now I'll break down as well how it helps improve your strength and your power so you can get fitter and better for the rushes component of the force test. The first thing we need to learn how to do is engage multiple different muscle groups at the same time. I explained how to do this in my progression series on rush technique. Specifically, we want to be able to engage our core, our glutes, and our thighs simultaneously. When we're doing the push-up, it's going to ensure that we move in one unit. That's going to help prevent injury, and it's going to make us move faster. This is the foundation for the technique and also for the strength component that I'll be talking about next. As I explained, from a physiological perspective, we want to work on power. But before power comes strength. If you don't have a strong foundational base, then you need to create one first. And the 2 movements I recommend you utilize for this is the push-up and the lunges. Now, just 2 movements in an overall training plan is probably insufficient. So I recommend that you add additional ancillary movements into your program to make a whole overall program, but include the push-up and the lunges in it. If you need assistance with that, reach out to your PSB staff and they'll be more than happy to help. The training modality that I recommend is 4 to 6 weeks, 2 to 3 times a week on non-consecutive days, 3 sets of 10 repetitions. For the push-ups, we want to work on progressive overload. Start with the intensity that you can sustain 3 sets of 10 repetitions. The easiest way is push-ups on a wall. Then you can work on push-ups with your hands elevated onto a table, bring that down to a chair, and then eventually onto the floor from your knees. If you can do that, floor from your feet, or feet elevated on a chair. And if that's still too easy, start adding weight on your back. Continue to add more and more weight until those 4 to 6 weeks are over. Always going to the highest weight that you can sustain, 3 sets of 10 clean repetitions. If your back bends or flexes at any point, meaning that your core was not engaged throughout the entire push-up, then that intensity is too much and go down a level. Continue working on your strength throughout those 6 weeks. From the lunges perspective, you can start with your hands supported on a wall or on a chair. Work your way up to being able to do lunges just with body weight and then slowly add the weight. Same thing here, 3 times 10 of clean movements. If you fall, then you have too much weight. Bring the weight down, keep working on clean movements, and slowly integrate and add more weights throughout those 4 to 6 weeks and build your strength up that way. After you've built your foundational strength base, let's start working on power. Same way that we work on our technique, we can use that training tool to work on our power. Take a look at the videos if you haven't done so already. One way that I recommend doing this, starting in the prone position with your hands elevated, doing an explosive push-up into a deep lunge. That's going to help your technique, and it's going to help the explosive power in your chest. Try to over-exaggerate it a little bit and push yourself up as high as you can, and then come back down and land on your foot. For your legs, start in that deep lunge position and then sprint out 5 to 10 meters. That's going to work on that explosive power of your legs, and it's going to help you focus on your technique, leaving the lines. Not convinced that training using the rushes is the best way to go, or you don't like it, you want to train a different way, or you don't have the space for it, then here are some alternatives. For strength of your chest, you can do floor presses or chest presses. For strength using your legs, you can do step-ups, squats, or leg presses. When we're talking about power, you can grab a medicine ball for your arms and work on wall throws, explosive wall throws, or lay on your back and throw it up into the air. When we're talking about our legs, any of the jumps, split jumps, broad jumps, box jumps, any of the jumps are going to help you with explosive power in your legs. Following the same training modalities, 3 times 10, for 4 to 6 weeks of strength on non-consecutive days, 2 to 3 days a week, then working on power. Approaching the line is a little bit trickier to train in terms of physiological strength and adaptations. Here we're focusing more on field dexterity, body awareness, knowing where we are and knowing when to decelerate. The only thing that we can truly train from a physiological perspective is that quick deceleration. But as we do that, it's going to apply a lot of pressure into our body and really increase our risk of injuries. So for this one, I don't recommend that we actually train specifically for it. What we can do, however, is work our way through the progressions that I set out in my progressions video for technique, and that will help us better learn our field dexterity and our body awareness. And then as we get closer and closer to our test date, that's when we can start adding full out sprints into the line so that we can work on quick decelerations. But I wouldn't do that for much more than 2 or 3 weeks leading up, as it's really hard on our body and we don't want to get injured. Now let's talk sprinting. For reference, see the YouTube video on running programming and the CAF pamphlet on injury prevention linked in the description below. We recommend you first build a foundational base where you were able to sustain 8 weeks of running 3 times a week on non-consecutive days, 30 minutes continuous effort, where it's a light conversational pace. If you're not there yet, build up a run-walk program to the point where you can do 30 minutes of continuous running, and then start your 8 weeks. Fortunately, you can do this at the same time as you're working on your strength, because the sprint programming goes well in line with the power programming of leaving the lines and approaching the lines. And you can put all those together once you have your foundational running base and your foundational strength for your chest and your thighs. How I recommend you do this is simply by working on your sprints, leaving the line. Let's take 30 to 60 meters. Start in the prone position with your hands elevated. You can do a powerful push-up into a deep lunge and sprint 30 to 60 meters. That's going to help you work on your acceleration. Let's also practice facing away from the direction that we want to go, so we can practice the turnaround technique. Let's also do an approach. Let's start 10 meters back and shorten our total distance by 10 meters after we've left the line. Approach a line, come down, come up, and sprint forward. Also, approach the line, come down, come up, turn around, and sprint back. All of those are going to help improve your sprint. You're going to be able to focus on your technique, and you're going to have a physiological adaptation to power in your chest and your thighs. Now, with all this information, it may be confusing. If you're still confused, please reach out to a PSP staff that can help you with this. Also, if you're not just looking for specific training on the rushes, but you want to improve everything as a whole, check out our national Facebook page where we have live videos every single day. Specifically, there are some for the force test, and there's others for a much more broad whole training program. That is linked in the description below, and we post them every single day as we're still working from home.